Hey guys, Connor here at eTrailer.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at the best trailer wiring harness options here for our 2020 Toyota RAV4. So for our Toyota RAV4, we have two trailer wiring harness options. We have the CURT trailer wiring harness here. We also have the Tekonsha trailer wiring harness here. Now these wiring harnesses, they're both going to provide us the ability to signal lights from our vehicle to our trailer to let other motorists on the road know what we're doing. This is also required by law in many states when we are towing a trailer. So both our CURT and our Tekonsha vehicle wiring harnesses are going to be a good option for our Toyota RAV4. However, I do recommend that we go with the Tekonsha T1 vehicle wiring harness, and here's why. The first reason that I recommend going with the Tekonsha wiring harness over the CURT wiring harness here is if we can tell the profile of the converter box is going to be much smaller for the Tekonsha option here. Now what this is going to do is essentially going to make it a lot easier to mount. We're not going to have as many space constraints like we would for the CURT option. The Tekonsha option is much smaller, so it's going to be easier to mount, it's going to be easier to hide, and overall it's just going to make the installation a lot more pain-free. Then our Tekonsha has a higher amp rating. Now what this higher amp rating is going to do, it's going to allow us to tow some of the bigger trailers or even the smaller trailers with more lights. We're going to be able to pull more power from the vehicle in order to power these lights, whereas we would be limited with our CURT option. Now, although these may not be important to you, a couple other smaller reasons as to why I prefer the Tekonsha vehicle wiring harness over the CURT one is if we take a look at the trailer plugs here. Now, granted, CURT does include the trailer plug cover here. However, it's separate and it's not integrated into the plug. I like the one that is integrated into the plug much more the Tekonsha option because it's easier to mount, it makes it easier to secure it to the trailer hitch, and we don't have to worry about it falling off. And last but not least, another smaller detail here that Tekonsha uses that CURT doesn't. So we can see here, when we have our single wire going into our dual wire, we have a much more solid and secure connection point as opposed to the heat shrink and glue that CURT uses. In other words, this option from Tekonsha is going to be a lot more durable in regards to how the wires feed into each other. So our CURT and Tekonsha vehicle wiring harnesses are both going to be excellent options here for our RAV4, and they have a lot of similarities. For starters, they're both going to provide us here with a 4-pole trailer connection point. Now this 4-pole trailer connection point is going to be the most basic and common trailer connector found on the smaller and even some of the medium-duty trailers. It's going to provide us with our basic signals, such as our stop, our turn signal lights, as well as our running lights. So as you can see here, both our CURT and our Tekonsha vehicle wiring harnesses have this included converter box. Now this converter box does a couple things. Number one, if we have a vehicle with a separate wiring system, it's going to combine the stop and turn signal circuits onto the same wire, which is required for most US trailers. And the converter box is also going to protect our vehicle's wiring in the event of a short on our trailer. We don't have to worry about power backfeeding and damaging the vehicle. So both of our converter boxes here, they're going to be pretty similar. They're both going to be sealed with the potting material, which is essentially going to keep the wires securely attached to the circuit board, so we don't have to worry about those breaking free over time. And I will say that's going to be the #1 death of the converter boxes, is that they come loose, they rattle around, and then the wires come off the circuit board, so then we have to replace it. We're not going to have a problem with either of these options here because we have the potted converter boxes. So as we can see here, we have a black wire coming from either converter box here, and these both need to be attached to the vehicle's main 12-volt battery source. Now what this is going to do is, this is going to help our trailer lights pull from the vehicle's battery instead of the vehicle's tail lights. This is going to reduce the strain on our vehicle's wiring, so we're going to ensure that we don't have any issues with the vehicle wiring, and we're also going to be able to pull a lot more power for our trailer lights if we have more lights on the trailer. So the great thing about both our Tekonsha and our CURT vehicle wiring harnesses is they're both plug and play. We're not going to have to worry about splicing in or making any permanent modifications to our vehicle. So in regards to mounting, they're both going to be designed to be stored inside the vehicle, which is probably going to be best for infrequent use because we don't have to worry about them collecting corrosion or dirt and causing any trailer lighting issues. However, if we want, we are going to have the option to store these permanently on the outside of the vehicle, but we'll need a couple brackets for in order to do so. So in regards to what comes with For both options, we're going to have everything that we need, so you're not going to have to worry about going to town and sourcing any other parts. As you can see here, we have our power wires, which are going to run to the vehicle's battery, to the converter box. We're also going to have these little packets here, which is going to come with our fuse holder, some miscellaneous wire ties, as well as some butt connectors and some self-tapping screws. So now that we've gone over some of the similarities, the differences, and our recommendations here, that's going to do it for the look at the best trailer wiring harness options here for our Toyota RAV4.